In fact, let's look at this idea. How many years in a century? 100. How many pennies, how many cents in a dollar? 100. This word cent means 100. Okay. The root word. What did we say the word per meant? Miles per hour. Per means divided by, doesn't it? So literally, the word percent means divided by 100. That's what the word literally means, divided by 100. So if I say, give me 30%, let me make it more generous. If I say, I'll give you 30% of my land, that means if you divide my land into 100 pieces, I'm going to give you 30 of them. Okay? For every 100 pieces, I'm going to give you 30. I'm going to give you 30 divided by 100. That's how much of my land I'm going to give you. And if we reduce that fraction, what is that? Yeah. Divide the numerator and denominator by 10, knock off a 0. 30 hundredths is the same as 3/10, isn't it? Okay, so here's a percent, but it's really exactly the same as that fraction, isn't it? And how would we write this as a decimal? 3/10. 0.3, wouldn't it? Okay. Now, I strongly suggest that anytime you write a decimal that's less than 1, put that being 0 on it, because it's really easy to think that's a 3 and not notice the decimal point. But if there's a 0 in front of it, that alerts us right away, because normally numbers don't have 0 in front of them. Okay? So here's a decimal. It's exactly the same amount as this fraction, which is exactly the same amount as this percent, isn't it? Now, how do we change a percent to a decimal? We have a little shortcut, don't we? If I say 0.3 is what percent? Well, the shortcut is move the decimal 2 places to the right, isn't it? Now, here's where we have to be careful. When I move the decimal 2 places to the right, did I change that number? Is 0.3 the same as moving it 2 places to the right? Is this number the same as 30? 0.3, if you think it's the same,
Not let's go percent.
you owe me 30 cents, pay me $30, we'll call it even. Okay, they're not the same. This thing's 100 times bigger than that. Because when we move the decimal 1 place to the right, we multiply something by 10. No? When we move it another place, we multiply by 10 again. So when we move a decimal 2 places to the right, we've just multiplied that stuff by 100. All right? So how can 0.3 be the same as 30? It's not the same as 30. But if I put the percent after it, I've just multiplied it by 100, and now I'm going to divide it by 100. If you multiply something by 100, and then you divide it by 100, you've left it the same, haven't you? So 0.3 is not the same as 30, but it is the same as 30%. Okay? So be really careful. And going the other way, if I said 43% is what decimal, we would move it 2 places to the left. Well, 43 is not the same as 0.43, is it? 43% is not the same as 0.43%. This thing's 100 times as big. But if I'll drop that percent sign, I just undivide it by 100. I just multiply it by 100. So now they are the same. Okay. All right, so to change a decimal to a percent, we move it 2 places to the right, add the percent sign. To change a percent to a decimal, we move it 2 places to the left. Now, an easy way to remember, decimal begins with D, percent begins with P. Alphabetically, this one's to the left of that. So if you're going from D to P, you're going to the right. If you're going from P back to D, you're going to the left. That's one way to remember it. All right, how's that feel? changing a decimal to a percent. Now, here's what's going to be on the test. I'm going to have 3 columns. One will be a fraction, one will be a decimal, one will be a percent. And I'm going to have something in one of those columns, and you're going to have to fill in the other 2 columns. So let's do some examples like that. Let's say we have the fraction 3/4. 3/4. Now, what if I didn't know what that was as a decimal? What could I do on my calculator? I could punch in 3 divided by 4 equals, and it would tell me what the decimal equivalent of that is, wouldn't it? So just try it. Punch in 3 divided by 4. It's always top divided by bottom equals. Should say 0.75. Okay? So 3 divided by 4, that's what that horizontal line means, is 0.75. Okay? And how do we change a decimal to a percent? 2 places to the right. Okay, so that's 75%. All right, what if we had a decimal